All right, so thank you for joining us today. And as you know, we request agenda items at the beginning of or during the invitation of the Student Development Administrators Update. And we've received a couple this time, and so I want to cover those first, and then after that, we'll hear from Dr. Gold. The first is a request for information from all the sister colleges. So if this is something you're interested in or you would like to share, please respond to Sandy Lackner from Isothermal. You'll see her email address there in the answer. And I won't read the whole question here for you, but it's basically, do you have a workflow and process to confirm the identity of people, to confirm that they're a student before you start sharing information, especially via email or the telephone and that kind of thing. So if you have a workflow or a privacy process and procedure and policy that you would like to share with Sandy, I'm sure she would appreciate it. Keeping our students' information private is always important to all of us. And so sharing that out to Sandy would be great. And then I would like to ask Sandy, if you don't mind, after you collect those, if you could share it back out to the whole group, because I'm sure everybody would be interested in that. So thank you, Sandy, for submitting that request for information. And I'll check to see if there's any questions in the text box. I'm not seeing any. And thank you, Sandy, for agreeing to do that. And we'll go ahead and move on to our next question. And that is basically, it's a comment around the idea of some of the IT services that are provided to the colleges, for example, with iPads and other colleague or Ellucian services. Some of those are being outsourced, so to speak, to the Ellucian Hub or to other resources outside of the system office. So I did have a conversation with Patrick Fleming, who's the current interim CIO, requesting that if that's the decision that the IT department is going to make, and that's the direction they're going, to make sure that he understands that there are North Carolina Community College specific support needs, especially that deal with the customizations that were made in the NC template. So we had a very good conversation. I think he'll keep his eye on that. Of course, he'll do the best he can to continue to provide services to the colleges. And I'll keep my eye on that as well and try to have conversations with Patrick in the future on it, just to make sure that it's on his radar, that he needs to make sure that the uniqueness to the community colleges is not lost. I'll pause there to see if there are any other comments or questions that kind of go with that question. Okay, not seeing any, we'll go ahead and move on. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Gold to you. Many of you already know her, but Dr. Gold has several different things that she would like to share with us, and that I think would be very pertinent to us to hear. And so, Dr. Gold, I'll turn the mic and the camera over to you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's good to spend a Tuesday afternoon with all of you after a long weekend. Hopefully, all of you had a chance to rest and relax a little bit. A couple of items that I mentioned on the Chief Academic Officer call that I thought might be relevant for this group and just to make you aware of. And some of you may have already heard these, but so I apologize if I'm repeating information, but these are questions that have been coming into the system office that we've answered on several occasions. So I just thought it might be helpful for everyone to hear this answer at the same time. The first topic that I'll just mention a little bit about is developmental education and RISE. I know that many of you are familiar or aware that we issued some flexibility for colleges in terms of implementing co-requisite remediation and developmental education policies. That flexibility was offered for several reasons. One, we know the impacts of COVID and the learning loss that many of our students are experiencing, and know that that's thrown all of us a little bit of a curveball. And so just wanting to make sure that you had the flexibility you need to support your students. We did send out a couple of weeks ago a survey about developmental education practices. That survey was due last Friday, so we're working through the results of that survey. My hope is that we will use that survey as a tool to see where we have consensus on how we're offering developmental education support, so how we're offering co-recs, how we are placing students, and how we're using the transition courses. So once we get that survey back, we'll be reaching out to schools that we have questions about their answers or their practices. And over the next year, we'll be working on developing some policies and practices around what we're hearing from you and the best practices that you're using on your campuses. So one of the things that we anticipate is there may need to be some tweaks to the RISE model, hours of co-rec, GPA placement, and particularly transition courses. So we will be talking with you a lot about that as we move through that process. But just wanted to make you aware that that is definitely on my mind. And we have several other folks who are working on that process as well, along with the President's Association. So just stay tuned for more information about developmental education. And if you've been involved in answering that survey, just want to thank you for that input and the information that you've provided. The other thing that we've gotten several questions about is attendance taking, particularly if you have students who have to quarantine and are unable to attend a class physically prior to the census date. So I know many campuses set up your courses to be in person and face-to-face for the fall semester. And then COVID threw us again another curveball. And so some of your students, some of your classes may be set up for face-to-face or physical attendance, and those students may not be able to attend prior to the census date. And so we have been encouraging you to use your adverse weather or your emergency policies that you have in place. If you have a support or support through your LMS provider for a course, and a student can submit an electronic assignment through that LMS, you can use that assignment similarly to the way that you would use attendance in an online course to count that student as present in the course. So I know that many of you, the census date has passed at this point, so hopefully you've worked through all of those issues, but unfortunately we may continue to deal with some of those questions as we move into second 8-week courses. So just wanted to share that with you. The other thing that we're working on here at the system office, we hired an individual, Lane Freeman, who has come to us. He's the director of online learning. And one of the things that he has been given the task of as part of getting settled in here at the system office is to look at our definitions for how we deliver courses through distance education. So many of you have asked about HyFlex courses and how those should be coded in the system. I know we have issued some ServiceNow guidance on how to set up those courses, but we also know that much of the state board code and our definitions are a little bit outdated. And so some of the methods that you're using to deliver courses don't always match the guidance that we have. So we are looking to update our state board code and our definitions on recording FTE. So stay tuned for that. It's a big task to give somebody the first week that they walk into the system office, but Lane has accepted that and taken it, and we are off and running, working on updating some of those definitions. So hope to get out more updated guidance in the near future. The other thing that we've been working on, if you'll recall back in the spring of 2020, it seems like a long time ago, we did some FAQ sheets on our website related to COVID. So we've been taking those questions, like the questions about how to count students for attendance if they're having to quarantine, HyFlex classes, and trying to update our FAQ sheets. So if you have questions and in talking with your fellow student development officers, you find that these questions are coming up frequently, if you'll share those with Dr. Kelly, and he can help us get those on our COVID FAQ sheet so that we can provide those answers, those questions and the answers on the website for everyone to be able to access. So just working through that. Some of the answers that we gave back in 2020 are no longer relevant, so we're trying to give updated answers to some of those frequently asked questions. And then the last thing that I'll just share, and then I'll stay on the call. And so if there's other questions, happy to answer any questions that might pop up in the chat. I have received several questions, particularly on the Chief Academic Officer call, about what is the system office planning to issue any mandates similar to the mandates that we issued in the spring of 2020, limiting courses or imposing any kind of restrictions. And so I just shared with them our philosophy in 2020 was that we followed the lead of the governor. And if the governor issued an executive order, we tried to take that executive order and operationalize it for our colleges. So I think in the future, we would continue to follow that same process. Not aware of any executive orders that are planned to be issued at this time. Of course, it's a very fluid situation with COVID. And so we stay in touch with the governor's office very closely. And if they were to determine that an executive order was needed and to issue such an executive order, we would try to mirror that. So that is a few topics from me. And as I said, I'll hang out for just a little bit. And if anybody has questions, happy to try to answer them or get an answer and get back to you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Gold. We appreciate that. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute or put those in the chat box, and we'll just pause a second to see if you guys have any questions for Dr. Gold. Okay, I'm not seeing any pop up or hearing any, Dr. Gold, so thank you for your time. We appreciate it. If we get any questions later on, I'll make sure we pass those on to you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We also wanted to invite another guest to speak with us here today, and that is Lisa Eads from the programs area. Lisa is working with the Credit for Prior Learning project, and so we thought it might be good to give you some updates there for Credit for Prior Learning. So Dr. Eads, the mic is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kelly, and thanks for having me with this great group today. And I'll just mention before I give you an update, if you have any questions, I see Dr. Gold's emails on the slide with my name. So you could just, Dr. Gold, you're still on. I'm sure you wouldn't mind getting some of those questions and sending them my way.
I apologize about that. Oops.
No problem. I thought that
send them right your way, Lisa.
That's what I thought. So we just wanted to give you a brief update today on Credit for Prior Learning. There's a lot going on, and just wanted to remind you that the code for Credit for Prior Learning was approved in February of this year. So since that time, a lot has been happening. We've been working on implementation with the CPL procedures, which will be a new chapter in the Curriculum Procedures Reference Manual. So that's exciting. That document has been in draft for the past several years. So we're getting very close to getting that tweaked, and Dr. Gold's reviewing that. So we hope to move that forward with some more specific guidance for colleges very soon. We've also, during the last few months, had quite a bit of work with some of the registrars, and if some of you are on the call or have folks on your team that participated with us, with Sonia Bartley, to look at standardization for CPL transcripting. That was most helpful, and that document will be available soon in ServiceNow. We're hoping to take the procedures and that standardization transcript policy to our next CCRC meeting, which is our Curriculum Course Review Committee meeting. So that's exciting as well. Something that's still under development and still got quite a bit of work to do, but is probably one of the most exciting pieces of the policy is course crosswalks. We are working on crosswalks that will live in the same chapter of the Curriculum Procedures Reference Manual for CPL. So that's exciting news. Now, we've also recently reconvened the faculty panels. Before COVID, back in 2019, we had faculty panels working on continuing ed credit to curriculum credit for crosswalks. So we got a good start back in 2019, and then of course COVID kind of derailed some of our process. So we had a kickoff to reconvene those panels just last week, and I have sent a link to that meeting recording to Dr. Kelly, and Dr. Kelly, you're welcome to share that information out with anyone who might be interested. So we're going to reassess what we had from 2019, see if what's there is still valid or if things need to be added or removed from those proposed crosswalks. All the crosswalks will be going through our regular approval process for things that impact curriculum, where we send things out to the colleges for a vote, to the chief academic officers and presidents, and then 2/3 approval to move those forward to the curriculum course review committee for their review and approval. So just want to reiterate that anything with credit for prior learning, it's not something the system office is making decisions on independently from the colleges. It's your input that's going to be most critical. So just want to give that plug. And then we do hope to have continuing ed credit for prior learning code added to our section of code that currently exists. So the CE to CU component will be coming forward in code soon. And so with that, Dr. Kelly, that's the update.
All right, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Lisa? Wow, it's a quiet group today. It must be the afternoon, first day back from a holiday. Well, let's see. We do have one question. Abraham, go ahead and feel free to unmute and ask.
Yes, Lisa, this is related to, of course, the project with CPL. Am I understanding it correctly that part of this is to create standardization so we're all doing the same work at all the colleges, but also for reporting purposes as well?
Yes, and yes. So I'll just mention that we want to get standardization wherever it makes sense, right? So when we're looking at crosswalks and such, it's kind of like that high school to community college articulation agreement, right? We have a state agreement, and then of course you can have local agreements that can be more generous. But probably the more important piece of the work that we've been doing since the code was approved is the transcripting policies, because that is critical. Right now we have no, or in the past, we've had no way to track the use of credit for prior learning. And that's different than our transfer policies, right? So that is going to be critical as we move forward in terms of what's different and way colleges have probably done some workflows in the past. So we welcome your feedback on those standard processes and certainly appreciate all that y'all are doing to implement this really new and exciting policy.
All right, excellent. Any other questions? All right, well, thanks, Dr. Eads. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining us. And I'll get that email address corrected on the slides that I send out. And we're going to shuffle our presentation a little bit today because of some scheduling conflicts that are going on. And so I'm just asking my team to bear with me as I kind of move us around a little bit. At this time, I want to jump over to Monty Hickman. If you're on the phone, you're on slide number 10, I believe.
And
yes.
You know I'm on the phone.
Yes, sir. So go ahead and jump in, and we're on slide number 10 with enrollment management.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Just so you know, while we're joking, my birthday is Friday, so I take emails, wishes and gifts and everything else. It's a holiday. But anyway, around enrollment management, we are, around RDS, that's the first one, excuse me. We are having RDS training coming up. So just be aware of that. I did send the invitation out to everyone. So if you did not get it, please let me know and I will send the calendar invite to you. We're going to have one on the 15th of this month, and that's going to be geared towards beginners. And then we're going to have another one on the 22nd, and that's going to be geared towards the changes to the RDS guide and any changes that was in the guide. So just be aware of that. So if you don't have it, please send me an email and let me know. Also, you see the pilot SIM consultation services in partnership with Noel Levitt. We have partnered with Noel Levitt, and what they're going to do initially is they're going to provide 5 complimentary SIM analysis for 5 colleges. And so we've chosen those colleges. To date, the colleges are Alamance Community College, Roanoke Chowan, Gifford Tech, Haywood, and Western Piedmont. And so at the beginning of the year of 2022, Noel Levis is going to be visiting those colleges unless something changed and they have to do it virtually. But they're going to spend 2 days on those colleges doing an analysis of their strategic enrollment management processes and put out a report that we can look at. Also, if you have anything that you need professional development on as it relates to enrollment management, please let me know. I'm going to start ramping those PDs up starting the end of this month. And so if you have anything around enrollment management, that may be marketing, it may be student relations, it may be community relations, anything geared towards enrollment management, that you want to see in training, please let me know. And I'll be sure to add that to the training roster coming up this semester.
All right.
Any
Thank you,
questions?
Monty. Yeah, any questions for Monty? Yeah. So the only thing I'll add to Monty's talk here is that with the SIM consultation services, we're hoping that if there's actual, that we find some good value at the college level and some solid recommendations from the Noel Levis visit, and that we will be able then to begin providing the opportunity to other colleges. But first, we kind of wanted to make sure that this was going to be a consultation service that was valuable to the colleges, not a sales pitch. None of us had time for another sales pitch, so we wanted to kind of test to make sure they were going to do what we really wanted them to do. And once we kind of confirm that, then we'll try to open things up for everybody. So one last pause to see if there's any questions or comments for Monty.
And one last plug. We did have a great session with Wayne Community College when the Strategic Enrollment Management Task Force went to the college just to have a conversation, open dialogue with the institution around their strategic enrollment management. So if you, as an institution, would like the task force to come visit your college just to have a conversation and help you strategize on some things, please let me know.
All right, thanks, Dr. Hickman. I appreciate that. And for those of you following on the phone, we'll go ahead and start skipping around a little more. I'm going to jump to slide number 11, which is Disability Services in Title IX with Trudy Hughes. So Dr. Hughes, the mic is yours.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kelly. I just have a couple things that I wanted to cover for today and just keep you aware of. We have the mental health first aid instructor training. We got a new round of funding through the Governor's Emergency Fund, and we're working with UNC System, and they are allotting us 116 slots. So that roughly is 2 slots per college for the instructor training. And for October, you can see the dates, but the due date for you to submit names on this survey that I've provided, and it has all the contact information that is required. That is actually due today. It was actually due yesterday, but I asked for an extension because yesterday was a holiday. So if you do know of somebody who would really like to get into one of the October trainings, please go ahead and submit their names through that link right there that I provided, and I'll try my hardest tomorrow morning to get those additional names submitted. We do have a break for November trainings for the 1st through 3rd and the 3rd through 5th. Those names are due September 27th. And again, you can access that link, and please provide some names because I'd really hate to lose out on this opportunity. There are spaces available. We only have about maybe 65 people that have signed up so far out of 116 slots. So please take advantage of this. It's being paid for. So, and it is all virtual. Okay. And you can even train virtually. So it is a great opportunity for our instructors. Another last thing that I want to present is the disability inclusion. It's preparing the workforce of tomorrow. I'm collaborating with Dr. Mary Olvera, I always have a hard time saying her name, Olvera, from CTE. And also we're working with the Abler company in Raleigh. And Abler is, they provide digital accessibility testing services. They provide disability inclusion advisory and consultation, and workforce development and workforce readiness program. They have developed this online course, which consists of 5 modules, 5 hours of self-paced content, so it's all virtual. There's 30 engaging video discussions, and they are very professionally done. I've been reviewing them, and they are created by professionals in the field that have disabilities or work with people with disabilities. They have interactive quizzes, slideshows, and downloadable documents. And so what we're doing is we want to look at our colleges and provide this for our faculty and staff as an educational tool to better prepare you for working with individuals with disabilities. So what we're looking for is to identify a director of CTE, the disability service person. We'd also like somebody that works with your work-based coordinator or staff in a similar position, and also employers. So we're looking at colleges that are working with students with disabilities. And the modules, like I said, are self-paced, and those are for faculty and employers to be better educated on working with students and placing them in employment settings. More information will be coming. We haven't started this pilot program yet. We will be sending out information in the next couple weeks. Dr. Witchker has agreed to purchase the modules for a number of the colleges. And the thing that basically what you'll have to do is send in, a letter of interest to us, and then part of the requirements will be to do a pre and a post test to kind of gain your skill level and to really see if you've learned anything from these modules, because if they're effective and they're useful, then we want to expand them out to other colleges. At this time, I do not have the specific number of colleges we're looking at. I think one will look at the need and who's interested. But it is free, but we are looking for a team of people at your college that will be working together on this self-paced online modules. So more information to come in the next couple weeks, okay? But I just want to give you a heads up. So at this point, are there any questions for me?
We did have one question in the chat, Trudy, and it is about the mental health first aid slots. And that is, if the college has already used 2 of their slots, are they able now to have additional slots since we're coming up on the deadline or the deadline's passed?
I'm saying absolutely. I would hate to lose out on this opportunity. We have 116 slots. There might be some colleges that don't want slots. So if you have additional people that really are interested, please fill out that survey and give me that contact information, and I'll add their names. So we don't want to lose out on the slots at this point. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. And one additional thing on the mental health first aid is that just to remember that there's a workforce con ed course that is aligned with the mental health first aid class, so that the instructors, after they're trained, could provide the course to not only communities, but business and industry, possibly even your public school system. There may be a need there as well. So I think there's a variety of ways that the instructors can provide these courses to your college and also to your community.
Thank you for adding that, Dr. Kelly. I appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you, Trudy. And we appreciate all you do, Dr. Hughes. Thank you. We'll go ahead then and continue to jump around on the slide deck, and I apologize for that, but we're going to go back up to the beginning on slide number 6 now, and we'll be able to hear from Ms. Brenda Burgess about student aid and some of her updates. So Brenda, the mic is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. To the 21% that felt like Bruno was my pick, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love the Get Up song, even though I can't dance to it. Couple of updates for you today. We're going to start with the Longleaf Commitment Grant. We are super excited that your offices may have received information on Friday that schools can begin certification. I know some of you were worried and or concerned as you are beginning your refund process that you were wondering if you'd be able to include them. It appears that you will be able to. So as of Friday, an email came out from Brandy Massey and also Tracy Mitchell at CFI, just giving you that go ahead, your schools the go ahead to begin certification. And I know schools are, our students are going to be excited when they see that money transferring over to their student accounts. It's a little too soon for us right now, but hopefully in the next couple weeks to months, we will know about the funding levels. So we will keep you all updated on whether or not we will be able to award the Longleaf Commitment Grant to students who will be beginning in the spring semester. Next update is the Longleaf Complete. Just want to encourage you all to go ahead and start making your plans for recruiting, retaining, and just re-engaging those adult learners who may have stopped out at some point and are about halfway done with their program, to come up with some best practices and or strategies to make sure that we're getting that money out to them. I did not include this, but while we're on the subject of leaves, let's talk about Golden Leaf for just a minute. You all know that all schools now are able to participate in the Golden Leaf program. Many of you, a couple have sent in the opt-out forms, which is something that a little bit differently this year than what we've known in the past. In the past, schools had to opt in to participate. Golden Leaf wants all of our colleges to be able to award students. So now they're making it a little harder for us, and you're having to opt out. And that the last day to opt out, if you choose not to use that money, is September 10th. So I would need to hear from you. I don't want to hear from you in that way, but if I have to, I need those opt-out forms by September 10th. And those forms have to be signed by the financial aid director, your college's CFO, and also the president. And last but not least for me, Dr. Kelly, and for all that are on the call, I am super excited today because I want to introduce to some and reintroduce to others. Dr. Wanda White has, we've pulled her out of retirement, and we have her tied down in student services again. She is going to be working with us as a grants management associate. So you will hear from her. You won't always hear from me on these leaves projects, but Dr. Wanda White will be working with our student services team. So if you see her name come across in an email, you're not seeing things. It is the actual truth. She's going to be with us at least 3 days a week. All right, and that is all that I have, Dr. Kelly. If there are any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer them at this time.
All right, welcome aboard, Wanda. We're glad to have you. And any questions for Student Aid and Brenda Burgess? Okay, not seeing or hearing any, so we'll go ahead and move to slide number 7, which is JJ Evans. Dr. Evans, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. First, I'd like to share information regarding a research study. So Innovation Research and Training, located in Durham, North Carolina, is conducting a National Institute of Health funded national study to better understand and how to improve the sexual and relationship health of community college students and prevent sexual assault. The link here, the cchealthstudy.com, will share more information regarding the work that's already been done. They are currently looking for North Carolina community colleges that would be interested in offering their students, faculty, and staff the opportunity to participate in this study. They're seeking to recruit students from each campus to complete a web-based sexual health program, and as well as a few online questionnaires. Additionally, they're seeking 2 faculty administrators that will be asked to review the sexual health program and provide feedback. All components of the study can be completed online in of course, outside of work time. And as an incentive, students and faculty participants will receive a financial incentive. If you're interested in learning more about the opportunity, I'll copy a link to a webinar that we're going to be hosting here within a few weeks, as well as share the contact information for the research team and partners that will be leading this study. And I'll pause there. All right, can you go to the next one, Dr. Kelly? So you all should have received among messages from one of our many listservs here regarding this conference opportunity. So the National Council on Black American Affairs will be hosting their Southern Region Conference on Friday, November the 5th. This conference will consist of practitioners from 11 states. The event will take place from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Registration will be opening soon, and we'll communicate that information out to everyone. But presentation proposals are open and they'll be accepted from now until September the 20th. And if you did not receive this communication, again, it's information I can share in the chat box in just a few moments. For those who just need a quick reminder, the National Council on Black American Affairs was established in 1972. It's affiliated with the Council of American Association by Community Colleges, and one of our own, Ms. Keisha Jones at Davidson Davy, serves as the president of the Center North Carolina chapter. And if there are no questions on that one, we'll jump to the last announcement. So we have been contacted by the North Carolina Division of Public Health because they have received a grant to address COVID-19 health disparities among populations at high risk and underserved, including racial and ethnic minority populations in rural communities, to eliminate tobacco attributable health disparities. Ooh, that's a mouthful. This is a great opportunity for our system to continue addressing health outcomes as it relates to smoking. Since 2008, I believe 43 of our 58 colleges have adopted a 100% tobacco-free campus policy, and so the Division of Public Health is seeking to engage those institutions that have not yet done so. This program will include grant funding from 2021 to 2023 to help colleges advance tobacco-free policies, rules, and or regulations. And so again, we'll be sharing more information from our contact with the Division of Public Health here within the next few days, and specifically for those campuses that have not transitioned to be 100% tobacco-free. Lastly, before I turn it back over to Dr. Kelly, I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege. We are still seeking a student leader to serve as our N4C SGA president, as well as student trustee on the State Board of Community Colleges. And so as you are engaging student leaders on your campus, please encourage them to consider applying. And if you need more information about that application process, feel free to contact me and I will share all that information with you. Back to you, Dr. Kelly.
Thanks, JJ. And any questions for JJ? While we're pausing and to see if any come up in the chat, I want to reiterate what was mentioned about the N4C SGA president. As you know, without a sitting N4C SGA president, that means we don't have representation on the state board from a student perspective, which is a great learning experience for not only the student, but it also helps our state board remain aware and keeping students in the forefront of their minds as they're making policy decisions across the state. So it's a great position to be in, both to benefit the state and the colleges and the state board, but also to benefit the student in their own personal and professional growth. So we'll pause here to see if there's any other questions that might be in your minds. You're not hearing any or seeing any in the chat box. We'll go ahead and move down here. I believe that the next is Jennifer McLean. to provide her updates. And we've jumped over to slide number 12 if you're following along on your own PowerPoint. So we're on slide 12, and Jennifer, the mic is yours.
Thank you. So many of you know that Career Coach is a successful program for our state, and we have tremendous support from our board and legislators. So to continue that success, we are making some changes. And one of these you'll see in the first bullet. We're having, we recently had gap year funding for our program for the 2019 cohort, and that was approved by the state board last month. And that means that all of our Career Coach programs are now going to be aligned to end on June 30th of 2023. One of the reasons that we did this is we want to make a lot of changes, and this would kind of get everyone evened up so we can begin at the same time. You will see in the second bullet that is going to push our request for proposals to the fall of 2022. The good news with this as well is we're going to shift from a 3-year cohort to a 5-year cohort. So when you are applying in fall of 2022, you are making a 5-year plan for your program. We're going to make some other changes as well, just so that we can really expand the program as much as possible across the state. I'll provide more details as we get closer to the request for proposal time. And if you have any questions, of course, you can put those in the chat. And just to wrap it up, our Advising Leadership Academy, we selected our final participants out of 109 applications. We were able to select over 20. So I really appreciate the overwhelming support that we have, and we're actually holding our first meeting this week. And that wraps it up for me, Dr. Kelly.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. Do we have any questions for Jennifer on the Career Coaching or Advising Leadership Academy, or anything else that she works with in support services? Okay, again, we're not hearing any or seeing any, so we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you, Jennifer. We appreciate that. I have a couple of updates for you from a student services perspective in general. I don't know if Barry Priest or Michael Coleman's on. I know I'm kind of putting you guys on the spot, but we did decide to postpone, or the organizations decide to postpone, the NCSDAA and NCCIA joint conferences. The attempt or the hope is to start those back up in the spring. And if there's a representative from the SDAA on the call, I'd be grateful to hear any comments or any additional information that you might want to share. Feel free to unmute your mic and share.
Hi, JW, it's Barry Priest.
Hey, Barry, sorry I'm putting you on the spot like that. I didn't think of this until earlier this morning. Oh,
that's no problem. Just with the proliferation of the variants, and we just wanted to be able to offer a safe conference. We as a joint association, well, with the association of the NCSDAA and our joint partners in the instructor side, we just felt like it'd be safer to be able to postpone this. A lot of our leaders are on their campuses, dealing with COVID contact tracing, and didn't feel like they could get away. We wanted to have an in-person conference. We didn't want to have another virtual conference. Nothing wrong with virtual, but we just felt like we wanted to be able to have an in-person conference. We are working on an agenda. We had an agenda ready to go. We'll be continuing to work on that agenda and hopefully get some information out in the next month or so on that and finalize our dates. It will be probably in March. We're looking at either a Monday or Tuesday or a Thursday and Friday, depending on what the officers decide there on timing. But we're looking at March, which will get us actually back on schedule. Unfortunately, we will miss two years of the conference, but it would get us back on the spring schedule.
All right, thank you, Barry. I appreciate you letting me put you on the spot like that.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, or any questions about the conference before Barry mutes his mic? Yeah, thanks, Barry. We appreciate the leadership of both those organizations and the work that the SDAA does. So thank you to you and all the other officers We really appreciate it. I'm going to work from the bottom up on my slide here. There is a new senior administrators orientation. This is different than the Chief Student Development Administrators Leadership Academy that we're leading. So don't confuse the two. This used to be called the new Chiefs meeting. We thought that senior administrator is a better description. This is for somebody who is the senior administrator in their functional area. So for us, it would be in student services. So it's the senior person in student services at your institution. And some of your institutions, that might be a VP, might be an AVP, might be a dean. But whoever that senior person is, if you are new to that role, in other words, if you've been in that senior position for less than 2 years, then we try to provide an orientation at the state level for you along with the chiefs in the other functional areas. So that way we can do some alignment work, alignment conversations, and help provide with you kind of an orientation of the system office and how you engage with the system office and those type of things. We are planning that for November. It will be a combination of face-to-face and virtual. We will be getting that announcement out probably in the next couple of days to see who's interested and begin the registration process at that time. So if you're brand new to your senior administration role, please keep your eyes open for that email to come out to you for registration and your interest. The last thing that I wanted to mention that's on my slide here is the Student Support Services Grant, which is funded by the Long Leave Commitment Grant. This is the grant that you have to provide, some of you have to provide the matching funds for. So we're receiving those applications now. Those applications and budgets are to be sent to me. We're reviewing those as quickly as we can, and I'm trying to get those allocations back out to you and turn those around hopefully within a week. We're a little behind right now, but we'll try to catch up in the next couple of days to get those out to you as quickly as possible. If you have any questions about that Student Support Services Grant, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'm serving as the point of contact for those. So I'll pause there to see if you guys have any questions for me or anybody else on the Student Services team. You can see on this slide our upcoming presentations and meetings. And then on the last slide, of course, is everybody's contact information. Well, this concludes the official part of our meeting today. We thank you for taking time on Tuesday, immediately following a 3-day weekend. I don't know what I was thinking when I set this up. Maybe I should have been a little wiser. But we appreciate everything that you guys do. We encourage you to please stay safe, and we'll continue to do our best to serve you as you serve your students. So at this time, I'll stop the recording. And if there's any other questions, feel free to ask.